What's going on YouTube? Got another knife review here for you. Today we're going to be looking at the Liong Mah SDC. This is SDC standing for Slim Daily Carry. Liong Mah is a Asian Chinese knife designer for the most part. I don't know if he's actually made his own knives before, but comes out with a lot of really cool and practical and ergonomic designs. And so he's definitely been on my radar for a long time, and especially after he started releasing, really with custom makers, whether it's his GSD with David Mosier, or the Creep with David Mosier, or just a lot of different ones that he's done. But really, after he got together with David Deng at Reate Knives, I really started paying a lot of attention. I've liked every single knife that he's put out, but I've never owned any of them. I've tried out his Warrior and his Ace. The Ace I really liked, and I'm hoping to get one eventually. But I was just so surprised at how they felt in hands, and how great the fit and finish was. And so I think that was a testimony both to Liong Mah's design, as well as David Deng at Reate Knives, his quality of machining and precision. And so from his Remedy to his what's the one, the Typhoon, is it Typhoon? No, I'm sorry, the Tempest, and then his Warrior. Those are all just designs that I was really turned on to. The Ace I thought was a little bit eccentric, but when I felt it in hand, I thought it was just another winner. Every single one is a winner. The only thing is that they're all the same. They're all the same, blank canvas. Straight up silver titanium with S35 blade. So nothing like overly special in those regards, and that's really what we've become accustomed to with all these mid-tech knives. Right now I just brought out this mid-tech, the Jeremy Robertson Model 4. You got your standard titanium scales, completely blank with a steel, S35. This one is XHP steel, but outside of CPM 154, that's pretty much all the mid-techs, all the blank canvas mid-techs have pretty much been those three selections of steels. The Avo, maybe that was what, B75P. And so get to some of the higher end, or quote unquote higher end looking ones, say from CKF, from Custom Knife Factory, the Gratch. You've got M390 on here, but a lot of their previous offerings were all also S35 VN from Crucible. Kwaiken here is also S35. Obviously the Sebenza is S35 VN too. But most recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago, Liong introduced the SDC, and it ended up not being exactly what I thought it would be. And what I thought it was going to be was actually a more of a front flipper. Actually what it is just a very low profile flipper. And so I still absolutely love it. But I'm just kind of thinking through my experience. When I first got it, it's like, oh, it's just a small flipper, not a front flipper. But that being said, still very low profile, where it almost feels like it's kind of like a front flipper. It's more just like a, when Kevin at Smock Knives and Alex Dietz, he's gone now, but when they're doing those flipper mods on all those Boker Quakens, they would kind of just cut the frame down a little bit so that the tang of the blade was exposed, and then you could flip it out. And so kind of like that, this is what's going on this knife. That flipper just comes out a little bit more here. So anyway, when this knife came out, aesthetically, I thought, man, that knife is beautiful, and it's going to be extremely slim profile and all these things. I thought it was going to be a pretty small blade because lately I've been getting into smaller blades between 3 inch to 3.5, maybe a little under 3.5 inch. That's kind of been my happy spot. And this one came, and I was like, holy smokes, this thing is actually a lot bigger than I anticipated it being. Plus, a you got all titanium hardware, titanium screws. You got a milled titanium clip that's non-obtrusive. This is a great clip. It's actually, if you can see here, it's actually mortised into the frame here. So just more machining work there, and then it's secured by one screw. So this clip's not going anywhere. You got a steel lock bar insert. So it holds the knife securely. Absolutely no blade play in this thing. It's on cage bearings inside. You got this titanium large collar, which is kind of signature of Liong's designs. And then you've got this large kind of slightly geared backspacer in the back here as well. So on the blade, I thought all this time it was a 3.5 inch blade. It's actually a 3 3/4 inch blade. Cutting edge is maybe 3 1/4 though, because you've got this little micro choil. I guess not micro choil. It's more kind of like a ramp choil, if you will. Just a place for you to set your finger on if you want to choke up on the knife. Jimping is pretty effective. Down here, I mean, if you're here, you still wouldn't want to stab anything because your finger will slide up that blade right away. But definitely, if you're doing any kind of fine cutting work, it's a nice place to be able to grip your knife. But I would still grip it here just for a little bit more security, because that jimping is not really going to prevent your finger from sliding up here if you do any kind of puncturing and whatnot. You got a nice hand rub finish with fingerprints all over it. So it's a good finish, good hand rub finish that David does on these blades. And then you got nice stone wash on all the grinds. So on the primary bevel, comes to a pretty thin edge, which is great for slicing, extremely sharp out of the box. And then you've got the stone washed large swedge going here. So somewhat of a spear point, I mean, it's more of a drop point blade, but yeah. So blade is, when I first got it out of the box, I'll be completely honest, there was a lot of rough edges. I've done some work on this knife just to make it mine. The flipper, the detent on here is set really hard. So, it's easy to flip out, but this thing became a finger shredder. My index finger was raw, from flipping this thing so much. It's a fun knife to play with. It's a heavy knife. It's 5.7 ounces. I'm kind of going all over here in this review. 5.7 ounces. So it's a lot denser than I thought it was going to be. And so this knife, and the reason I say that, the blade is pretty thick. So it's not the fastest knife that I've played with, but when I would flip it out, it would just kind of slowly come out, and but I was just trying to really give it a lot of force, and so my finger was just rubbing raw, and so the cutouts, or not the cutouts, the finish on the blade was really, really sharp, and I'm just assuming that's coming out of the factory. And so I had to sand this part down to break those edges, and even more than just breaking the edges, I actually had to round it out a little bit. There's jimping, there's light jimping on right there in front, just to grip your finger. That really just kind of tears at your finger, and then you've got hard jimping here, which is actually the jimping that's at the bottom of the blade after it's flipped out. So, all in all, it's an effective flipper, but I had to break those edges. And you might say dude, you're such a wuss, but I've been flipping knives for freaking forever, and it was an obvious issue for me. But once I smooth out that edge, it's awesome. Perfect, great flipper. The other thing, as I mentioned on the Steelcraft Quaken, those hard edges, that are all around here. This one in particular, you can see that little notch cut out right there. This is like a little fish hook that just grabs at your finger. It's really hard to get in there unless you were to take the knife apart and rub some sandpaper in there. So this is a hard edge, and I haven't been able to break that edge. But the rest of this part here as well was extremely sharp. There weren't any burrs per se, but it was really, really sharp. So I did take some sandpaper in there and just sand it out a little bit, just so it's a little bit smoother, just to break those edges as well. Outside of that, this knife is really a perfect EDC carry. Like I said, though, it is a little bit heavy, 5.7 ounces for what I expected. Don't expect a small light knife, in this one. The title or the name of the knife is a little bit deceiving, Slim Daily Carry. Not that it's not slim, but slim usually think oh, it's gonna be Sebenza-esque or whatever. I mean, Sebenza is a 4.6 ounce knife, with a similar length blade, but it's a thinner blade, thinner titanium, not this big old titanium backspacer in there. So when you carry it, you definitely feel the lightweightness. This is at 5 ounces, pretty much even. This thing is a friggin' tank. I didn't know this is so heavy. This thing is 6.7 ounces, and then the Gratch is about 4.5 ounces as well. So you definitely feel that density in your hand. The weight distribution, it's pretty relatively even. And you can see like right there, this is kind of its center of mass right there. But again, extremely smooth. It broke in really, really nice. The rounded cutout, or the relief cut on the lock bar inside here, is just like butter. I mean, it feels so good to disengage. Again, you just see how the knife falls out. Hopefully you can see that right there. This is just a testament of how smooth the knife is and rolling on those bearings like perfectly. So ceramic ball detent, as well as I want to say ceramic bearings. I'm not positive though. I'm not sure if Liong has it listed on his thing, but really, I mean, there's no cost spared in some senses. In terms of the hardware. I anodized these collars blue just to give it a little bit more contrast. Normally they're silver. But these bronze anodized screws are from the factory. One thing also just to note, if you can see the texturing on the titanium, those lines, those little mill lines, I wouldn't say it really gives you much grip, but aesthetically, I think it's really nice to look at. It just gives it a little bit more character, under that stone wash, just for the knife as a whole. This is a total winner, EDC. And when Liong first introduced it, it was at $300. Right now it's at $350. I think that's a steal for this knife. Now here's the one interesting thing to note. I was at my local dealer and I was showing her this knife, and the one thing she said was, for like 50 extra bucks or 100 extra bucks at the time when it was $300, you can get a full Sebenza, and usually on the secondary market you can get a Sebenza. And when I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's like so true. Sebenza, it's like American made knife. It's the quintessential like perfection knife, but it's the basic standard, it's the gold standard for all folding knives, to be honest. And as a classic user, this is quite honestly the perfect knife. And I think I've just been so spoiled at times, thinking that, Oh, there's so many other cool knives that are out there. This is a smoother knife, almost hydraulic, running on bearings. Flipper, it's a faster knife. It's a beefier knife. It's got a milled clip. It's got a titanium backspacer. It's got titanium hardware. You know, the Sebenza, you've got titanium standoff. You've got the titanium pin. You've got one of the best clips in the industry. You have the option of inlays and Damascus steel and all those things. S35 blade steel. And again, made in the U.S. You know, a plain Jane Sebenza, $400. You could probably find them on the market, secondary market, for $300, maybe a little bit more. And with inlays, sometimes, you know, around $375 or so. So the question is this, you know, as a Chinese made knife, is it worth it? And I don't know. To be honest, I would let you guys decide that. You know, in my honest opinion, is it worth it? Yeah. It's a really great knife. It's a fun knife, you know. And could it replace the Sebenza? I don't know. Um, so I'm gonna leave it on that note. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next vid. Take care.